Have you ever read The Shadow of the Wind by the Spanish author Carlos Ruiz Zafón? It begins in Barcelona, Spain, one morning in 1945. A father takes his son to an ancient depository called the Cemetery of Lost Books. The caretaker tells the boy, "Every book has a soul, the soul of the person who wrote it, and of those who read it and lived and dreamed with it." Andy says, every time a book changes hands, every time someone runs his eyes down its pages, its spirit grows and strengthens. And then the boy is allowed to take one book from the shelves. Glenn Kurtz, a Guggenheim Foundation Fellow who holds a PhD from Stanford University in German Studies and Comparative Literature, has written a beautiful book of his own about the guitar. It's called Practicing: A Musician's Return to Music. In a sense, this is a story about the soul of a musician, which is renewed each time he thinks of and picks up the guitar. When a guitar is perfectly in tune, Kurtz writes, its strings, its whole body will resonate in sympathetic vibration, the true concord of well-tuned sounds. It is an ancient, hopeful metaphor, an instrument in tune, speaking of pleasure on earth and order in the cosmos, the fragility of beauty and the quiver in our longing for love. There is a beautiful voice in this, something of the shadow of the wind. The immediacy of a book or guitar, the mystery of what lies within it and its magical, transformative quality, all have the ability to change us. You too have something to say through music, or you wouldn't be here right now. We all do. Communication via artistic means has been part of the human journey since time immemorial. The Romantics of the 19th century reserved their greatest praise for the power of instrumental music because it expresses something that cannot be rationally explained. The 19th century composer and pianist Franz Liszt said, "Music embodies feeling without forcing it to contend and combine with thought, as it is forced in most arts, and especially in the art of words." If music has one advantage over the other media through which a person can represent the images of the soul, it owes this to its supreme capacity to make each inner impulse audible without the assistance of reason. Liszt said that music pierces us like a dart, like a ray, like a mist, like a spirit, and fills our soul. Ultimately, music is about sharing what you have to say with someone else. And so my question to you is, what do you want to say? What's your story? In Practicing: A Musician's Return to Music, the real-life Glenn Kurtz tries to unpack the mystery of his lost love affair with the guitar and his own playing. He writes that, "As a boy, I studied at music conservatory. I won competitions, but ambition and expectation are sometimes not enough. In my mid-20s, disillusioned with my progress and so with myself, I gave up my dream of becoming an artist." He says, "Perhaps I lacked the talent. Perhaps I didn't work hard enough. Then a few years ago, I began to practice the guitar again. Over the course of several months, as I set out each morning to practice, I realized that my technique and my ability to concentrate were not what held me back. Instead, I discovered that when I abandoned my musical ambitions, I had lost my faith in practicing. I no longer believed the story I was telling myself about hard work and gradual improvement. Yet, practicing is the fundamental story," Kurtz tells us. "When you sit down to practice, however casually, you cast yourself as the hero and victim of your own myth. You will encounter obstacles, you will struggle, succeed, and struggle some more. The story of your practice weaves all this together, absorbing what is within you and making it productive. Because when you truly believe your story of practicing," he says, "it has the power to turn routine into a root, to resolve your discordant voices and to transform the harshest, most intense disappointment into the very reason you continue. I'll add this. When you sit down to practice the guitar, enjoy the process, even as you focus on your larger goals. We so often get caught up in what the end result of the practice will be that we race through the story so we can get to the conclusion. But practicing, like reading a good book or living a fulfilling life, is also about the journey. This is worth emphasizing because at the end of our time together, you won't yet have the physical dexterity to command all of the music that this course opens up for you. And you'll be only beginning to explore the ideas. So you will have to spend time striving to capture the Spanish author Carlos Ruiz Zafón's elusive Shadow of the Wind. Playing guitar is physically demanding, and if you're like me, you might want to play for hours on end. So you'll need to sit comfortably. Let's discuss how to hold the guitar in the formal classical position, which is comfortable and perfect for playing all kinds of music. The seat of your chair should be flat and preferably with some padding. Sit up straight with your head over your torso in a straight line. Check to make sure that your knees are aligned over your ankles with your feet flat on the ground for stability. Your legs should form about a 90-degree angle. If not, you might need a chair that's higher or lower. Scoot up so that you're sitting at the front of the chair and rest your arms by your sides. This should feel comfortable and natural. So now we want to find a way to hold the guitar that doesn't compromise this nice, stable position. If I place the guitar over my right leg, as you often see players do, my posture quickly becomes a disaster. I have to hunch over to see the fingerboard, and I'm expending some effort just to keep the guitar from falling off my leg. And let's face it, this looks very uncool as well. Now, placing the guitar over the left leg is a little better as the instrument is closer to the center of my body, but it's still too low. The trick is to elevate the left leg. I use something called a guitar footstool. They're adjustable in height, and you can buy one in any music store. If you don't have one, you might be able to use your guitar case or just about any other stable fixture to rest your foot on. So left leg up. Now I'm going to put the guitar over my left leg like this. And now the guitar is centered. I maintain my good posture. I can see with my right and left hands with my peripheral vision, and the guitar is stable. Generally speaking, the guitar nut at the top of the neck, just behind the first fret, should be roughly level with your jaw. But everyone differs a little bit in what feels the most comfortable. Now, by sitting properly, we have 4 points of contact with the guitar. The lower side rests on the left thigh. The right thigh braces the bottom of the guitar. The upper edge of the back of the guitar leans against the sternum, and you can actually feel the instrument vibrate. Feeling these vibrations allows us to experience the life of the guitar. I can even tell whether or not my guitar is in tune just by the vibration. As Glenn Kurtz writes, each note rubs the others just right, and the instrument shivers with delight. This comfortable, efficient seating position is our foundation for playing. In this position, my head can remain upright while playing. And that's essential if I'm reading music, looking at other musicians, or following a conductor. Now, if you find the position uncomfortable, don't give up on it yet, though I can also recommend a couple other options. They're just not quite as advantageous. You can shift the guitar over to your right leg and still use a footstool to keep the guitar elevated, like this. Or you can use a guitar strap and play standing up. Just adjust the strap so that you can approximate the classical guitar position. Now, taking the proper playing position, let's revisit the chromatic warm-up exercise I introduced in Lesson 2. And this time, we'll play using our right hand fingers instead of a pick. We're working on keeping our form, coordinating our hands, and producing a nice sound. So, on the first string, with your left hand, finger the note on the 7th fret with the first finger. If you have a guitar with fret markers, it should be the 3rd one up. Now, without lifting the first finger, place your 2nd finger on the next fret above it, and then the 3rd, and then the 4th. Keep your wrist straight with your thumb in balance behind the fingers. Again, imagine holding on to a baseball. And now, come back down, 4, 3, 2, 1. With the right hand, instead of using a pick, we're going to play the notes with alternating fingers. We use numbers to designate the fingers of the left hand and letters to designate the fingers of the right hand. And this is to avoid confusion between the two. On the left hand, starting with the index finger, we number our fingers 1, 2, 3, and 4 for the pinky. On the right hand, we use the first letter of the Spanish name for each. That's P, pulgar, or thumb, I, índice, index finger, M, medio, middle finger, and A, anular, ring finger. We use the Spanish terms because so much of the history of the classical guitar originated in Spain. So again, the right hand fingers are P, I, M, A. The pinky is seldom used in fingerstyle playing because it's so short, though we do sometimes use it for a technique called rasgueado. This technique is ubiquitous in flamenco style playing, where we strum the strings with the back of the nails. It sounds like this. So, to review, the left-hand fingers are 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the right-hand fingers are P, I, M, A. When playing fingerstyle, the most common alternating pattern on the right hand is I, M, I, M. That's index finger, middle, index finger, middle, as these digits are stronger and more agile than the ring and pinky fingers. Let's talk about proper right hand playing position. When you pluck the strings of the guitar, you're essentially creating a loose fist. Hold out your arm away from the guitar and try making that fist. Notice that the movement primarily comes from the big first knuckle. I'm not curling the fingers into the palm with the other joints like this. That might be a great fist for martial arts, but not for guitar playing. We want a nice, loose motion. Also, my wrist is straight, and this feels very natural. We want to replicate this in our playing position. So, loosely grab the strings of the guitar as if you were holding on to a tennis racket. And then gradually open your hand on the strings. Place your thumb, that's P, on the 6th string, and I, M, A on strings 3, 2, and 1. And then play all 4 strings at the same time. We do that again. P, I, M, A on the strings. If you follow through, this will give you a rounder, louder sound. Again, I'm following through all the way with my fingers so that when I finish, my fingers are actually in my palm like this. I start here, follow through with the fingers. Listen to the sound when I don't follow through. Do you hear that? It's not as rich versus following through. Keep the big knuckle of your right hand positioned over the strings. If you flatten out your hand too much, like this, you'll also get a thin sound. Now, I'm a classical guitarist, and so I play with my fingernails. But if you don't have nails, don't worry. The movement of the fingers is the same when playing with the pads of your fingertips. 2 common mistakes in right-hand playing are, first, positioning the top of the hand too close to the top of the guitar. I'm going to turn the guitar this way so you can see. If I get the top of my hand too close to the top of the guitar, it will force me to pull the strings outwards, away from the top, and I get that thin, rattly sound. The second mistake is anchoring the pinky on the soundboard. This restricts our range of motion and creates tension in the hand. Let's return to our exercise and play it while alternating the I and M, index and middle, fingers of the right hand. So, left hand, first finger at the 7th fret, and play that note with the I or index finger. Second finger at the 8th fret, and play with M. Third finger at the 9th fret, play with I. And 4th finger on the 10th fret, M. And now back down. 3rd finger at the 9th fret, play with I. 2nd finger at the 8th fret, play with M. And 1st finger back at the 7th fret, play with I. I'll play the entire exercise again slowly on the 1st string. And we can repeat this on all 6 strings, like this. Once alternating I and M feels comfortable, try this exercise with the right hand combinations of I-A, index and ring fingers, and M-A, middle and ring fingers. MA is especially effective because it trains the weaker outside part of the hand. And remember, you can also make this exercise more challenging by moving down the neck to the lower, wider frets. Now, let's learn to read the top 3 open strings as they are notated in treble clef. The higher upper E of the first open string is notated on the 4th space of the staff. The second open string is B, written on the 3rd line of the staff. And the third open string G is notated on the 2nd line of the staff. Using proper string and fingering indications are important to play fluidly and with the most pleasing tones. We often see 2 numbers next to a note on the staff. The numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 indicate either an open string or the use of left-hand fingers 1, 2, 3, or 4. And a number with a circle around it indicates the string number from 1 to 6. Now, let's try a couple of exercises using the rhythmic values we learned in Lesson 2. We'll use a metronome to help us keep the beat. With the right hand, you can either use a pick or alternate the I and M fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've snuck a couple of new elements into the written notation. The vertical lines that demarcate the staff are called bar lines, and they serve to divide the staff of music into bars or measures. They help us keep track of our place and the rhythm. Each measure contains a certain number of beats, as indicated by the 2 numbers that look like a fraction just to the right of the treble clef. These numbers are known as a time signature. The upper number of the time signature signifies how many beats are in each measure, in this case, 4. The lower number indicates which kind of note receives 1 beat. In this example, the quarter note. So, a time signature of 4/4 means 4 beats to a measure, with a quarter note equal to 1 beat. In this exercise, there are exactly 4 beats to each measure. The first measure contains 2 half notes, which receive 2 counts each. The second measure has 4 quarter notes at 1 count each. In the 7th measure, we find a dotted half note, that's 3 beats, plus a quarter note, 1 beat. And the final measure has 1 whole note equal to 4 counts. The double bar line at the end of the last measure signifies the end of the piece. So let's play it again, Sam. 1, 2, ready, go. And now, we'll run through another exercise that combines the top 3 open strings. It's also in 4/4 time. Let's do it twice. The first time, I'll count as we play. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now, with the metronome, but I won't count out loud this time. 1, 2, ready, go. You should remember the C and G major chords that we learned in Lesson 1. But now I want to show you slightly more advanced versions. What I showed you in the first lesson were simplified ways to play them. And you can always use them. Simplicity is a virtue. And they're easier to start with initially. But from now on, we'll use these fuller versions. You'll find the G major chord by placing your second finger on the 6th string at the 3rd fret. The first finger falls on the 5th string 2nd fret, and the 3rd or ring finger on the 1st string 3rd fret. And then strum all 6 strings with your pick. It's a good idea sometimes to check each string individually to make sure you're not inadvertently dampening a string. Did you hear that? I accidentally got my first finger too far away from the tip, and now it's dampening that string. So if I check it one by one, I can make sure that's not happening. Another fingering for the G chord is as follows. 3rd finger on the 6th string at the 3rd fret, 2nd finger on the 5th string at the 2nd fret, and 4th finger on the 1st string at the 3rd fret. So you'll see me use both fingerings throughout the course, and you should become comfortable with each. Now, for the C chord, we start off the same way as we did for the little c, the easier version of C. Place your first finger on the 2nd string at the 1st fret, 2nd finger on the 4th string at the 2nd fret, and 3rd finger on the 5th string at the 3rd fret. And for the C chord, we won't strum the lowest string, that low E. We just strum the top 5 like this. Now, let's practice switching between the 4 chords we know, A minor, E minor, C, and G. So, here's A minor, E minor, C, and G. Switching between chords is challenging, and it may take some time to master. It helps to keep your fingers close to the fretboard while changing between chords. One common mistake is to allow the fingers to fly way off the fretboard into space before trying to find their way back into position for the next chord. I call this the circle and land approach, and it's very ineffective. What does help is to be aware of a common finger between chords. For example, in moving from A minor to C, the only finger that needs to move is the third or ring finger. The first and second fingers, index and middle, are common fingers, so try not to lift them when you switch. Take a look at this. A minor to C. A minor to C. So you don't want the circle and land. A minor, fingers go off into outer space. And there's C. Be aware of those common fingers. So far, we've become familiar with two systems of notation. That is, ways in which sounds can be represented in a written format. These are notes on the staff, and secondly, chord diagrams. Now, let's look at a third type of notation that is very important for guitarists. It's called tablature, or simply tab, and it tells us where to place our fingers. The word tablature originates from the Latin term tabulatura, referring to a table or slate. To tabulate something means to put it into a table or chart. Tablature has been widely used since the Renaissance and was employed to notate music for such predecessors of the guitar as the lute and vihuela. Modern guitar tablature revolves around a 6-line staff, with each line representing a string of the guitar. The top line of the tablature staff is the first string, and the bottom line is the 6th string. The number associated with each line or string refers to the fret where you are to finger the note or notes. So, the number 0 indicates an open string. In this way, the first string open E in tablature is designated with a 0 on the top line. Open B and open G are indicated by zeros on the second and third lines. Tablature identifies chords with a vertical stack of numbers. For instance, the A minor chord can be read, starting on the 5th line, or string, as 0, 2, 2, 1, and 0. We can also indicate rhythm in tablature by adapting the symbols for note values that we find in staff notation. A quarter note is signified by a number with a stem extending from it. A half note is a circled number with a stem. A circled number without a stem is a whole note. And a dot after the circled number with a stem designates a dotted half note. So let's revisit the first note reading exercise from Module 2 in this lesson again, but now we'll read it in tablature. 1, 2, ready, go. We'll continue to improve our abilities in all 3 systems of notation throughout the course. In Lesson 2, we learned the chords to November Song, which uses the C, G, A minor, and E minor chords. Now I'll teach you the melody. It uses the E, B, and G that we learned on the top 3 strings with the rhythmic values of whole note, half note, quarter note, and dotted half note. For the chords, let's use the new versions of C and G that we now know. This C and this G. Let me play the chords for you first. 1, 2, ready, go. And now, the melody. And now, I'm going to play it through the melody again, a little bit faster.